Hello out there in YouTube land. This is Morris Man, and as always, I thank you guys for coming to my channel and the ongoing support and subscriptions. I really appreciate it. Today I'm going to do a very short special video. It's going to be entitled Artists' Careers Who Have Tanked Because of Poor Management. And I'm going to be glancing down off and on because I'm going to be reading off my list here. And I'm going to just give you a few artists and groups reasons why their career tanked. And before I go into that, I just want to reiterate as far as my position in the music industry. I've been a part of the music industry off and on for the last 25 years in the capacity of studio musician, producer, arranger, sound engineer, and just a few other hats that I wore throughout that period of time. So I know a little bit about the industry and how it works from behind the scenes. And today I'm going to again talk about some of these artists whose career had a promising career, and unfortunately their career tanked because of the management made bonehead decisions and it didn't benefit the artist. So the first one on the list is Keith Washington. I actually just did a cover of his classic Kissing You, one of my favorite ballads during the 90s. And when I first heard that ballad, it just blew me away. Keith Washington has a beautiful voice. He's a great crooner. And when I first heard him, I ran out and bought the album, and the album from start to finish is just a masterpiece, a collection of great songs, arrangements, and great musicians that played on it. And when I heard Keith Washington for the first time, I said to myself, there's the next Luther Vandross. And I honestly, truly believe that Keith Washington would have been the predecessor to Luther Vandross after Luther Vandross' passing or retirement, because when I listen to Keith Washington's voice, he kind of sounds like Luther Vandross. And I don't think that he's trying to emulate him. That's just the way that, that's his style. But to me, Keith Washington had a little extra than Luther Vandross. And that was a little extra soul. He was a little more expressive. But, not taking away from Luther Vandross, because Luther Vandross was a tremendous entertainer. But I do honestly believe in my heart that Keith Washington should have been the next Luther Vandross. And the reason why he didn't become the next Luther Vandross, because the first album, very classy, great songs, great arrangements. And for some bonehead reason, they changed producers on him on the next couple of albums. They literally changed his image physically and singing-wise, where they were trying to cater him to the younger fan base or the younger crowd, which really was ridiculous. Here's a man that was in his mid-30s, and they were trying to market him to 20-year-olds. It's just ridiculous. But I believe that's why Keith Washington's career took a nosedive, because Keith Washington should be selling millions of records to this day and crossing over. I mean, he was, to me, that creative and that talented. But as a result of the bonehead decisions of his record company and the PR people or the management, he didn't get his due. So it's really a shame that he didn't. The next person on the list actually, to me, would have been another predecessor to Luther Vandross, and that was Brian McKnight. Brian McKnight is a tremendous singer, songwriter, piano player, guitarist. And when he submitted his demo to Quincy Jones, who passed on him, in a later interview, Quincy Jones said that I regret the fact that I didn't sign Brian McKnight, because Brian McKnight is just so unbelievable talent. But again, bonehead decisions. Brian McKnight is a man in his mid-30s, and they were, again, marketing him to the younger crowd, which I don't understand. And his career tanked as a result of that, too, because he has a sense of sophistication to me. And for some reason, they were, again, trying to repackage him to, draw in the younger audience, and it just didn't work. The younger audience didn't accept it, and the older audience, or his audience or fan base, basically kind of abandoned him because of the change in imagery and change of style. So, unfortunately, Brian McKnight makes this list. And another bonehead decision on the management company was when they gave him that variety show, and his co-host was Kim Whitley. And I'm like, sophisticated gentleman meets ghetto. He had no business taking a part in that show. And unfortunately, it killed his credibility when he took part of that show. And a couple of years down the line, he put out a song that was offensive to women. So he just more or less kind of stuck the knife in deeper, so to speak. Okay, next on the list is En Vogue. Now, we all remember En Vogue from the 90s, these beautiful women that can sing, and they had a string of big, huge hits, and they were big on the scene. And what happened again, another bonehead decision on the marketing end, where they was trying to repackage them into like a TLC. And I'm like, well, first of all, we already have a TLC. And why are you trying to take these sophisticated women and convert them to TLC? Because TLC was basically street girls. And there's nothing wrong with that image. It worked for them, but not En Vogue. And En Vogue had sold, at that point, more records than the Supremes. So that was a real bonehead decision on the record company and management company to try to change their image again to cater to the younger folks when they already had a very successful, huge fan base. So next on the list is Adina Howard. Now, a lot of people didn't really catch her when she was on her wave, so to speak. She came out like in the late 90s, and she was going to be named to be the female R. Kelly. And I believe, I agree. She had this very soulful voice. Again, the first album, great productions, great singing. She was on the album cover, beautiful looking woman. And they changed her image. The second album, they changed producers. They gave her a physical makeover. They cut her hair and bleached it blonde. It was like she was totally unrecognizable from the first classic CD. So again, unfortunately, another bonehead decision by the management company, record company, to say, hey, let's mess with this. When there was nothing wrong with it, it wasn't broke, but they're trying to fix it. And let's see, who makes, okay, last on the list, because I'm going to make it brief, was JT. Now, not Justin Timberlake, the original JT, the lead singer from Kool and the Gang. When JT joined Kool and the Gang, instant success. I mean, they already had success prior to him, but when he joined the ranks of them, they went pop and white crossover. A lot of hits during the late 80s and the 90s. And at some point in time, JT, for some reason, felt that he didn't need Kool and the Gang anymore, so he left. And when he left, the songs that they were giving him, and again, here's a man that's in his mid-30s, a 20-year-old should be singing. So, unfortunately, his career never resurged after he left Kool and the Gang. And I do believe it was because of poor management, because, JT could sing, but the stuff that they were giving him as far as songs and production, it was something that, a 20-year-old should have been doing. So that basically kind of wraps up my list of artists' careers who tanked because of poor management. But I'm going to say this, on the flip side, or the opposite side, I'm going to name one group that was just the opposite of that, and that's the Whispers, one of my favorite all-time groups. Whispers been in the business for over like 45 years, if not longer, and they've been consistent because, of course, in the music industry, as time progresses, the styles of music change. And you have to make some adjustments on your end, because if not, you become a dinosaur and you become extinct, and they don't re-sign you for no more contracts to sell records. So they've stuck to some great writing, and they did not lose any type of integrity when it comes to their music, and they didn't sell out. They weren't trying to create this new image to cater to 20-year-olds when they're in their 50s. So, my hat's off to the Whispers, because they've been extremely consistent. And unfortunately, these artists that I listed, they wouldn't allow them to be consistent and keep them on the path that they were. So I'm going to basically wrap this up, but I'm going to say this before I leave you guys. I got a comment on one of my videos that was entitled R&B Songwriters, Attention R&B Songwriters, Where Are the Black Bands? And in that video, I basically talked about how the music industry, and I stress the music industry, how they're killing off black bands. It's not that these young guys don't want to pick up an instrument and learn how to play or sing. There is no market for it. Unfortunately, the record companies are not trying to sign black bands because it's cheaper for them, and it's not a racial thing, it's a financial thing. It's cheaper for them to sign one artist, one person, and get 3 other guys to put the whole album together. Because 20 years ago, the majority of the albums, Gap Band, Rick James, if you look at the album cover sleeves, there's at least 20 to 30, sometimes 40 musicians that played on that one album. Nowadays, there's like 3 guys to put the whole album together. And it sounds like 3 guys to put the whole album together, unfortunately. But it's more financially beneficial for the record companies to kind of cut corners when it comes to our music, and that's why they do what they do. And I got a comment from a gentleman that said, his comment was, this is just the evolution of music. Now, that statement to me, well, let me just say this first. Evolution to me, by definition, is things improve as time progresses. A good example of that, 100,000 years ago, we were cavemen, literally, and we could not, well, we can barely communicate. Now, 100,000 years fast forward, you know, we communicate better, we're building things. So that's evolution. But I don't believe that as when it comes to the R&B music that it's been an evolution. Unfortunately, I would say we've digressed, you know, because I listen to the stuff today versus the stuff 20 years ago. Better musicians, the people that sang did their job. They didn't rely on auto-tune and cheating and all that kind of stuff. Now, I'm not bashing the young people because it's not your fault. It's partially the older people's fault for not continuing a level of perfection to do what we do in the music industry. Because, you know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the majority of the musicians were like just barely out of their teens, but yet they were prolific musicians and singers, and they knew what to do. Nowadays, we got nothing but professional dabblers. We got guys that can call themselves piano players and playing with one hand, you know, because they self-taught themselves. So, unfortunately, evolution, no. Digress, absolutely. And on that note, I'm going to leave you guys and take care. Till next time.